Friday afternoons often bring a unique sense of calm and reflection. As the busy morning winds down and the world slows for a moment, it is the perfect time to open our hearts to God and invite His miraculous presence into our lives. Prayer is not simply a ritual, it is a conversation, a surrender, and a connection. Today, as we focus on opening our hearts to God's miracles, we begin by acknowledging that miracles are not always dramatic events. Sometimes, they come in small, quiet ways, a renewed sense of peace, a sudden clarity of mind, a kind word from a stranger, or an unexpected opportunity. These are all reflections of God moving in our lives, and by opening our hearts to Him, we allow ourselves to recognize and receive them fully. To open your heart to God's miracles, the first step is intentional presence. Pause for a moment and remove yourself from distractions. Set aside your phone, your work, and the endless stream of thoughts that demand your attention. Take a few deep breaths, inhaling slowly and exhaling fully, feeling the rhythm of life that God has given you. As you breathe, remind yourself that this moment is sacred, that it belongs to you and to God, and that in this quiet space, you can invite His power and grace into your life. A key part of opening your heart is honesty. Speak to God openly about your fears, doubts, and desires. Lay everything before Him without reservation. Tell Him what you feel is impossible, what weighs heavy on your mind, and what you hope to see changed in your life. When you share your true self, without hiding anything, you create a space for God to work in ways you cannot imagine. It is in this raw, sincere prayer that miracles often begin to appear. Faith is also central to this practice. Believing that God can move in your life, even when circumstances seem hopeless, is a vital step in receiving miracles. Faith is not blind, it is rooted in trust, experience, and a willingness to see beyond the surface of life. When you cultivate faith, you begin to notice subtle signs of God's presence, a feeling of reassurance in a difficult moment, guidance through intuition, or doors opening where you thought only walls existed. Gratitude amplifies the ability to recognize miracles. Take time to reflect on the blessings already present in your life. Express thanks for your health, your home, your loved ones, and the countless small gifts that often go unnoticed. Gratitude shifts your perspective from what is lacking to what is abundant. It trains your mind and heart to see God's fingerprints everywhere and prepares you to receive more. Visualization can be a powerful companion to prayer. As you speak to God, imagine the changes you wish to see. Picture the problem resolved, the burden lifted, or the opportunity realized. Feel the emotions of joy, relief, and peace as if the miracle has already happened. Visualization, combined with prayer, creates a fertile ground where God's work can manifest. Patience is another essential element. Miracles do not always arrive instantly. Sometimes, God's timing differs from ours. Trust that He sees the bigger picture and that every moment, whether challenging or calm, is part of His plan for your growth and blessing. Use waiting as a time to strengthen your faith, deepen your connection, and remain open to the ways God may answer your prayers. Action complements prayer. While prayer invites God to move, our effort shows readiness to receive His blessings. This does not mean controlling the outcome but aligning your actions with your intentions. Take steps toward your goals, make decisions guided by prayer, and remain attentive to opportunities that may come unexpectedly. God often works through circumstances and people around you, creating avenues for miracles. When your heart is open, forgiveness is a vital part of opening your heart. Holding on to past hurts, grudges, or regrets can block the flow of God's blessings. Release these burdens, not for the sake of others alone, but to free your own heart. Forgiveness creates space for love, joy, and divine intervention. As you forgive, you allow God to work in your life without obstruction. Surround yourself with reminders of faith. Scripture, inspirational readings, and uplifting music can reinforce your connection to God. These tools keep your heart focused, strengthen your spirit, and remind you of His power and presence even in ordinary moments. Community can also be a source of inspiration. Sharing your faith and prayer with others encourages mutual support. Listening to stories of God's work in the lives of friends, family, or fellow believers can deepen your belief that miracles are real and accessible to all who seek Him with a sincere heart. Throughout the day, remain aware and mindful. Miracles are often subtle. They can be a sense of peace during a stressful moment, a sudden insight that solves a problem, or a simple act of kindness that brightens your day. By cultivating mindfulness, you train yourself to notice these blessings, recognizing that God's work is present in both extraordinary and ordinary events. Conclude your afternoon prayer with surrender. Acknowledge that you cannot control everything, but you trust in God's wisdom, timing, and love. Surrender does not mean inaction, it means aligning your will with God's will, knowing that He can bring about outcomes far beyond your imagination. As you finish your prayer, carry the sense of God's presence into the rest of your day. Let your heart remain open, your mind focused, and your spirit receptive to His miracles. Trust that even small signs of His work are meaningful and that your faith and openness invite greater manifestations of His love and power. By dedicating this afternoon to prayer, reflection, gratitude, and surrender, you create an environment where miracles can flourish. You set the stage for transformation, growth, and divine encounters. Remember that God moves in His perfect timing, and by opening your heart today, you are ready to receive what He has prepared. Approach the remainder of your day with confidence, peace, and expectation. Believe that God is at work, that miracles are possible, and that your life is a canvas for His love and power. As the afternoon unfolds, carry these truths with you, trusting that every moment holds the potential for divine intervention. Let your heart remain a beacon of faith, hope, and gratitude, and watch as God moves in ways that inspire awe, bring joy, and transform your life. Experiencing God's power in daily life begins with awareness and a willingness to recognize His presence in every moment. Too often, we rush through our days, focusing on tasks, responsibilities, and challenges, and fail to notice the subtle ways God moves in our lives. Yet, God's power is not limited to grand miracles, it is constantly at work, guiding, protecting, and blessing us in ways both seen and unseen. The first step to experiencing this power is cultivating attentiveness. Begin by observing your surroundings, your thoughts, and your feelings. Notice the small blessings, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of birds, the smile of a friend, or the peaceful moment that arrives unexpectedly. These are glimpses of God's hand at work. Recognizing them allows you to see that life is not merely a sequence of random events, but a tapestry woven with intention and divine care. Prayer is a central tool in connecting with God's power. It is not only about asking for things but also about inviting His presence into your life, expressing gratitude, and seeking guidance. Daily prayer strengthens your spiritual awareness and helps you attune your heart to recognize God's influence. Through prayer, you learn to listen as well as speak, to open yourself to direction and encouragement from a source far greater than yourself. Faith is essential in experiencing God's power. Faith is not a passive belief, it is active trust. It involves believing that God is working on your behalf even when circumstances appear challenging or confusing. Faith allows you to remain calm in the midst of trials, knowing that every situation has a purpose and that God's timing is perfect. As your faith grows, you begin to notice His interventions, answers to prayers, doors opening, relationships transforming, or unexpected solutions to problems. Gratitude magnifies your ability to experience God's power. When you take time to recognize and give thanks for even the smallest blessings, your perspective shifts from what is lacking to what is abundant. Gratitude tunes your heart to receive more, as you become aware that God's blessings are constantly flowing into your life. Visualization and reflection further enhance this awareness. Imagine your life filled with God's guidance, healing, and provision. Reflect on past moments where you can now see His hand at work, times when what seemed like coincidence was actually divine intervention. This practice strengthens your belief in God's active presence and prepares you to notice future manifestations of His power. Action is another critical element. Experiencing God's power does not mean waiting passively for miracles to happen. God often works through our decisions, choices, and efforts. By aligning your actions with your prayers and intentions, you cooperate with His will and make space for His influence to manifest. When you take steps of integrity, kindness, and courage, you create opportunities for God to move in ways that bring blessings, solutions, and growth. Forgiveness is essential to this process. Holding on to resentment, anger, or guilt creates spiritual blockages that prevent you from fully experiencing God's power. When you forgive yourself and others, you release these burdens and open your heart to receive God's love, healing, and guidance. Forgiveness is a powerful act that demonstrates trust in God's justice and timing, allowing His presence to bring restoration and peace into your life. Community and shared faith also play a significant role. Surrounding yourself with people who encourage, support, and uplift you strengthens your ability to see God at work. Listening to stories of God's power in the lives of others can deepen your belief and inspire you to recognize His interventions in your own circumstances. Moments of challenge or difficulty are often the most profound opportunities to experience God's power. When problems arise, instead of becoming overwhelmed, turn to God in prayer and reflection. Seek guidance and trust that He is orchestrating solutions, even if you cannot yet see them. Many times, obstacles become channels through which God demonstrates His strength, teaching patience, perseverance, and faith. Mindfulness and presence are essential. Pay attention to the signs, coincidences, and subtle changes that occur in your daily life. God often works quietly, through the timing of events, through people He places in your path, and through your own intuition and insight. By remaining attentive, you learn to recognize these manifestations and appreciate the ways God is actively involved in your journey. Scripture, meditative readings, and inspirational texts can help focus your mind and reinforce your awareness of God's power. These tools provide wisdom, comfort, and guidance, reminding you that you are not alone and that divine intervention is always available to those who seek it. Patience and trust in God's timing are crucial. Not every prayer is answered immediately, and not every solution comes in the form or timing you expect. Learning to wait with faith and openness allows God to work in the most effective and meaningful way. Often, what appears as a delay is preparation for a greater blessing, a deeper lesson, or a more perfect resolution. Observing the transformation in your own life and the lives of those around you strengthens your ability to experience God's power. Take note of changes that occur after prayer, acts of faith, or intentional effort. Recognize moments where challenges have been overcome, peace has replaced anxiety, or unexpected solutions have emerged. These experiences serve as reminders that God is always at work, even when unseen. Finally, living with gratitude, faith, and attentiveness creates a lifestyle that constantly invites God's power. By integrating prayer, action, forgiveness, and mindfulness into your daily routine, you align yourself with His will and make yourself receptive to His presence. Experiencing God's power is not about expecting dramatic miracles every day, but about cultivating an awareness that allows you to recognize His guidance, provision, and love in every circumstance. As you move through your day, carry the awareness that God is present in your decisions, your interactions, and your reflections. Trust that He is moving in ways you may not fully understand, but that are ultimately for your good. Approach life with an open heart, a grateful spirit, and a faithful mind, knowing that God's power is active in your life, shaping, guiding, and blessing you continuously. By nurturing this connection, you will find peace in the ordinary, hope in challenges, and joy in the simple presence of God. Your daily life becomes a canvas for His work, and every moment an opportunity to witness His power in action. Through prayer, faith, gratitude, action, and mindfulness, you cultivate a life that not only sees but experiences the constant movement of God in every facet of your journey.